Despite the fact that there are numerous sources of data still greatly undervalued, industry is making strides and a lot more data is becoming available that can drive innovation and inform regulatory science. Yet, several barriers exist that are making both manufacturers and regulators stay up at night. First, data quality can be poor. There are many exceptions, of course. At the same time, progress is made challenging by a general lack of trust on the validity of the information that is being collected using mobile and digital health technologies deployed in the real world. This lack of trust can be, at least in part, explained by the absence of standards to inform studies leveraging these technologies, or at least a framework to build an evidence base. Also, the real world is different from the standard clinical trial environment in many significant ways that we are just beginning to understand. Efforts on this front, including on regulatory affairs, would certainly go a long way towards enabling more rapid testing and adoption. Understanding that the exponential growth in digital solutions generating health data and the algorithms analyzing them is confusing, industry experts anticipate that the exponential growth in digital solutions generating health data is continuing. And most everyone is anticipating that sensors and related software will have an increased role in health, especially with future digital biomarkers potentially able to diagnose conditions or adverse reactions to new drugs and interventions during studies, earlier than ever before. Facing this reality, the key question that FDA is grappling with is, what mechanisms, methods, frameworks should exist that foster trust in solutions that are safe and effective? While regulators are debating the questions, industry is both applying pressure and demonstrating a certain level of self-organization in many ways. We're seeing more efforts aimed at the development of consensus regarding standards for quantifying core metrics. For example, the Consumer Technology Association Standards Program has been very active in the consumer health and fitness technology space for a few years. In 2016, the association published 2 standards: definitions and characteristics for wearable sleep monitors and physical activity monitors for fitness wearables, step counting. They're now working on recommended performance metrics for heart rate monitors and definitions and characteristics for consumer stress monitors. We're also seeing more independent validation of metrics from consumer-level wearables, coming mostly from validation studies from academia. And last but not least, even though these are mostly not validated at this time, we're seeing a growing number of metrics that promise improved clinical utility incorporated into consumer-level wearables. Moving forward, strategies to generate more and better evidence about the effectiveness of digital health technologies used in studies may include post-market evidence generation networks, the establishment of networks of sites that can easily implement pragmatic clinical trials, more consensus methods built around the use of recognized standards, and ideally a framework of what the minimum level of quality really is in order to establish evidence for different medical intended uses. I believe this will only happen through the continuation of the collaboration between different federal agencies and between these agencies and industry. As regulators and industry work together to generate these methods, standards, and tools, one thing that is painfully evident is that the pace of technological advancement in the sector is truly unprecedented and very difficult to keep up with. Health technology innovation has traditionally moved in life cycles of several years. However, the pace of development of digital health, especially software, is a lot closer to that of consumer mobile devices, such as smartphones. This is a world where products have a shelf life of 2 to 3 years before being considered obsolete, and software changes even more rapidly, with updates becoming available every few months. This ecosystem calls for a regulatory environment that can keep pace with flexible processes that can adapt quickly and safely to technology developments and to the life cycle of digital technology, where software updates for regulated devices may now trigger full review processes with a frequency that is unwarranted based on the potential benefits versus risk determination and can hinder innovation. The FDA is aware of these challenges, of course. In August 2016, it has made a first attempt to address them by publishing a new draft guidance that helps manufacturers decide when to submit a 510(k) for a software change to an existing device. It describes several guiding principles and a flowchart. It also encourages manufacturers to submit a new 510(k) only when a change exceeds the threshold of significantly affecting the safety or effectiveness of the device, or it constitutes a major change or modification in the intended use of the device. It warns manufacturers not to try to be too clever by implementing major changes through a series of very small ones, just to avoid regulatory requirements. Interestingly, a section of the draft is dedicated to change made solely to strengthen cybersecurity. The FDA expects manufacturers to ensure that such changes do not impact the performance of the device, and in this case, they're likely not to require a new 510(k). Cybersecurity in digital and mobile health is an important topic at the FDA, which recognizes that the same innovations and features powered by digital health that improve healthcare also increase cybersecurity risks. Guidance on post-market management of cybersecurity medical devices was published recently in December 2016. The guidance emphasizes that manufacturers should monitor, identify, and assess cybersecurity vulnerabilities and exploits as part of their post-market management of medical devices. According to it, it is essential that manufacturers implement comprehensive cybersecurity risk management programs and documentation consistent with the quality system regulation, included but not limited to complaint handling, quality audit, corrective and preventive action, software validation, and risk analysis and servicing. The guidance strongly recommends that manufacturers participate in an information sharing and analysis organization known as ISAO that shares vulnerabilities and threats that impact medical devices. This is clearly not the end of what FDA will do to address cybersecurity, which has stated that the agency will continue to monitor, identify, and address threats and adjust its guidance or issue new guidance as needed. Nor is this guidance the first of FDA's efforts to protect the public health from cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Just 2 months prior to the finalization of the guidance, the FDA entered into a new Memorandum of Understanding with the National Health Information Sharing and Analysis Center, as well as with the Medical Device Innovation, Safety, and Security Consortium. The first is a non-profit health sector-led organization that provides member organizations with actionable information on cybersecurity and coordinates cybersecurity incident response. The second is a nonprofit organization that develops best practices in public health, safety science, and physical cyber system security to address the complex challenges associated with health technology cybersecurity risks. The goal of this collaboration and Memorandum of Understanding are to establish mechanisms by which information regarding medical device cybersecurity vulnerabilities and threats can be shared with the agency and its organizations, and to foster the development of a shared risk assessment framework to enable stakeholders to consistently and efficiently assess patient safety and public health risks associated with its software platform it designed to be used for outpatient care, transitional care, and population health. On the subject of latest relevant guidance, I'd like to point you to a useful resource from CDRH. Since the medical device user fee amendments of FDA agreed, among other things, to post annually a list of prioritized device guidance documents that the agency intends to publish within 12 months of the date this list is published. This is available on the agency website, and it's worth noting that the final version of the guidance on post-market management of cybersecurity in medical devices was at the top of the list in fiscal year 2017. The FDA published it in record time, in a handful of days before the fiscal year even started. And also worthy of mention is that we're awaiting the final version of an existing draft guidance on recommendation for interoperable medical devices. While exercising enforcement discretion for medical device data system, FDA has also recognized various consensus standards that support medical device interoperability to make it easier to share and display data from medical devices. And this guidance, currently in draft form, is intended to highlight what medical device manufacturers should consider to ensure the safety and effectiveness of their interoperable medical devices, particularly for designing systems with interoperability as an objective, conducting performance testing, and risk management assessment. Unfortunately, from this list, one guidance document is missing that industry, as mentioned, is eagerly awaiting for: a guidance on clinical decision support, which FDA had previously promised. I believe the choice of leaving it off the list was motivated, at least in part, by the legislation that passed at the end of 2016, which we have just discussed. Surely the statute is very helpful, but the general sentiment in industry is that it remains important for FDA to express the agency's views on how the language of it is to be interpreted and applied. To understand what is ahead of us beyond 2017, this recent statement by FDA's Associate Center Director for Digital Health is very telling. He said, and I'm quoting, "In the next 5 years, what the industry and the FDA has agreed on is to bring all of these pieces of data. The patient is a big part of that. As we think about new paradigms in the words of digital health, and we use things as a springing off point, we have some things to consider. Does our tolerance of risk change? Are we collecting the data? We're on this journey, and we have to figure out how to connect things. Surely all stakeholders have much to gain from the ecosystem becoming more able to bring all pieces of data together in real-world environments with typical patient populations and in a collaborative way."